start with how offensive it is to say that I am a witting or unwitting asset of a foreign country, working against the interests of our people and our country, the country that I am willing to lay my life down for. So if you're saying it's not deliberately, then you are implying that I am too stupid and too naive and lack the intelligence to know what I am doing. That is extremely offensive to me and to every woman of color.
Quote back up.
Tulsi Gabbard merely turned the View into her own. I can assure you that this is the most embarrassing reality TV scene you will see this week. Think about this. A gang of hosts ran the broadcast until Tulsi abruptly cut them off, dismantling their talking points like a professional wrestler in a library. It's hilarious, but it's not pretty, spoiler alert. Get some popcorn because this is the kind of political roast that leaves people feeling scared and with a lot of questions.
I want to straighten a couple of things out. I've never said, and I don't think Hillary Clinton thinks that you're a witting asset. You might be an unwitting asset. Not that that means you're stupid, but people can be used.
That's exactly what it means, though. That's exactly what it means.
The other thing that confuses me, wait, I have one more question. You're on state TV all the time. Why do you go on Fox Channel, which is a propaganda network, 16 times with Tucker Carlson? I never see you with Chris Wallace or that other guy, what's his name, Behar. Well, why aren't you on with them? They're definitely middle of the road. Why do you go on with Tucker, who's a liar?
Imagine this scene. 4 ladies with radically different opinions gather in a circle and engage in heated debates about topics they barely understand while posing as political experts. For the loud, the ridiculous, and of course, the terribly ignorant, the set basically functions as a confessional booth. As we all know, every point of view is important here, as long as it's the right one, which is basically anything that neatly fits into one of 2 categories. Is it truly democratic?
Also a Russian asset.
So really? I mean, this is outrageous. This is outrageous and offensive on so many levels. I've served as a member of Congress now for almost 7 years, receiving high-level national security and intelligence briefings, serving on the Foreign Affairs Committee, the Armed Services Committee, the Homeland Security Committee, working to ensure the safety and security of the people of this country. This is why I'm running for president, to continue that commitment of service. It's offensive to me as a soldier, as an American, as a member of Congress, as a veteran, and frankly, as a...
However, something happened one day. When someone stepped onto The View, they even dared to challenge the current quo. Tulsi Gabbard is here. I promise you, it wasn't just another day in the echo chamber at The View. Oh no, the hosts suddenly recognized that this storm of reason and argument might be too strong for their small, keen swords. It felt more like a brand new Game of Thrones season.
Because I think everyone has sort of missed something.
What are we missing?
Well, I think what you're missing is that that asset had nothing to do with Tulsi. She was talking about Jill's time.
Actually, her spokesperson confirmed it.
I'm not making it
They called you a Russian doll.
Her spokesperson confirmed it because some of the media followed up and asked for her spokesperson to say what she meant and confirmed that they were talking about me. So there was no mistaking that.
Right. Okay, well, that's clear.
Well,
Let's just say that Tulsi Gabbard is the former congressman who was quoted as saying, "You know what? The two-party system isn't really working for me." They then committed the ultimate mic drop moment by defecting from the Democrats. She is now the political equivalent of that one friend who doesn't care about the Kardashians, doesn't follow the group text, and doesn't think the point of view is a politically correct one.
Go ahead. About why I go on Fox News.
Yeah.
I go on Tucker Carlson, go on Behar, go on Sean Hannity, go on MSNBC, go on CNN. I am here to speak to every single American in this country about the unifying leadership that I want to bring as president. Not just speak to those who agree with me, but to speak with those who may disagree with me, recognizing that I'm asking for the opportunity to serve every single person in this country. We have to come together for our country and our country's future.
Warning: Tulsi Gabbard was not planning on becoming a yes lady. The hosts of The View thought they were interviewing another politician who would nod and play the game politely as she stepped onto that stage. At that point, the fun began. It was similar to playing whack-a-mole, you see, only that once you struck the moles, they just kept returning and making the same old boring points. But when Tulsi arrived, it was as if someone had handed her a sledgehammer and instructed her to swing. Political disputes finished there, or more precisely, Individuals yell at each other until they are completely worn out, which makes the viewpoint problematic. Whoopi Goldberg, the longtime queen of composure, thought she was ready for this. Whoopi has had enough experience in politics to know how to mock its absurdity. She's that smart. I don't care because I've been through it all. But as Tulsi started talking, Whoopi's calm demeanor fell apart faster than a toddler's attention span at a science museum. As Tulsi starts to ramble on like a talking Wikipedia entry, picture this Whoopi sitting there, poised. You can see it in Whoopi's eyes too. There are some really challenging acrobatics going on in her thoughts. She is unable to keep up with Tulsi's rapid pace.
It must be very disconcerting to be in a private meeting with the president with only top people, and then a day later, see it on the pages of the New York Times. Clearly, I assume you trust your fellow cabinet members and so on implicitly, but everyone has to speak to a staff about what happened and what needs to happen. And I wonder how rattling that is. People underneath you appear to be leaking even top secret information that you can go to jail for leaking. How has that affected you? And you're dealing with it with a firm hand, but how has it affected you?
The conversation is shifting as Whoopi tries to keep the car moving but is unable to locate the steering wheel. Tulsi was talking about more than petty political issues. She was investigating the underlying reasons for the turmoil in the media and political institutions. Wait, I might actually have to think about what's being said, Whoopi realized, and you could just hear her gears spinning. Luckily, a woman who has mastered the art of sarcasm and disdainful eye rolls, Joy Behar, is on her way. If you've ever seen The View, you've surely seen that Joy can shade people more powerfully than a solar eclipse. When it comes to passive-aggressive humor, she is the best. Joy was ready to jump in when Tulsi started talking about how both political parties are equally awful, and she did. When Tulsi made even the slightest attack to the Democrats, Joy literally sprang out of her seat. When she used the classic "you're being naive" tactic, saying that she didn't know how politics really operated, Tulsi wasn't buying it. In response, she offered some sobering facts, pointing out that the Democratic Party has changed its emphasis from calling for real change to maintaining the status quo.
That example of that New York Times article, there were a number of things in that article that were completely inaccurate, which speaks to, again, and there is an investigation that's underway to try to figure out the source of this leak or sources of this leak around that specific incident. It makes things much harder in constantly questioning and looking over your shoulder, okay, who's in the room? I have to be careful about everything that I say because ultimately we're in a situation where these things being leaked, either by people who are just trying to show a reporter that they're important or chasing clout of some sort, or the most dangerous of which is those who are trying to ultimately undermine the president's politics.
Joy had a priceless look on her face, as if she had just understood she was caught in her own web. She could hear her inner voice shouting, "Wait, I thought we were just supposed to yell over each other about Trump and not talk about solutions." There was a showdown, people. The View's hosts thought they knew everything, but Tulsi Gabbard was like a walking reality check. What else could possibly disturb the well-oiled mechanism of The View's political theater? Whoopi Goldberg, the queen of calm, probably thought she could gently lead Tulsi into a safe, expected debate. But Tulsi was not abiding by those regulations. No, everyone's viewpoints are legitimate as long as they fit into the comfortable left-wing paradigm, which is what Whoopi tried to achieve by guiding the ship into more agreeable waters. However, when Tulsi twisted the wheel and drove straight into the storm, Whoopi seemed to have just realized her Wi-Fi was down during a Zoom meeting. Chaos reigned. When Whoopi asked Tulsi what she thought of the Democratic Party, she didn't just answer. Instead, she let it all out like a politician who realized she didn't have time for the traditional prearranged dance. Whoopi's look said it all. Unable to talk.
He got asked about Tulsi Gabbard, and the journalist said, there are foreign allies who are very nervous about sharing intelligence with her. And he said, oh, I don't know. I'm surprised to hear it. I heard that for the first time the other day. I mean, I think she's a great American. I think she's got tremendous common sense. This woman with tremendous common sense, Tulsi Gabbard, went to Syria, met with Assad, legitimized him as a member of Congress, then came back here
and advocate.
Then came Joy Behar Joy, the sardonic queen herself, who has earned a living off of her biting humor and the self-assurance that comes from the view alone. "Oh, you switched parties, aren't you cute?" She added, however, as soon as she tried to ridicule Tulsi's choice to quit the Democratic Party. Let's see how much longer that lasts. Tulsi's response sounded like that of an experienced lawyer cross-examining a witness who had just begun to perspire. Behar tried to sidestep the situation with her usual sarcasm, but Tulsi didn't let her off the hook because she was clearly unprepared for a fact-based answer. As Behar gracefully exposed her hypocrisy, you could actually hear her head failing. The main appeal is usually lazy, trite political humor, but Tulsi wasn't there for that. However, she wasn't only critiquing Behar's liberal viewpoint, she was critiquing the show's general dearth of interesting discussion. Behar's response was akin to throwing a fit and then pretending nothing had happened. Then, bless her, Sonny Hostin did everything in his power to corner Tulsi with some incisive foreign policy questions. "I've got her now," Sonny said in a practically audible inner monologue. "This is my time."
Tulsi Gabbard co-hosted The View, and things got spicy between Gabbard and some of the ladies on the show, especially when it came to some of the rumors that have been flying around in regard to Tulsi Gabbard and her relationship with Russia. So let's take a look at what she's upset about. So what she was referring to there were previous statements that were made by a few of the women on The View. So for instance, when the show discussed Gabbard and Clinton's comments about her recently, Sonny Hostin said, quote, "I've often said that Tulsi is sort of a Trojan horse in this. She's polling at only 1.2%, yet she's still in the race." And then
really fast on that. I don't. What does she mean by Trojan horse?
I don't know. I really don't know. But
like, there are multiple people who are only at 1%.
Yeah, exactly.
I would say like 5 people are at like 1%.
But Tulsi was not recoiling. She did not merely answer, she analyzed Sonny's line of inquiry as if she were a professor grading a badly written term paper. Sonny's stunning face, you could just see the wheels moving in her brain as she attempted to comprehend what had happened. Tulsi not only challenged but also dispelled widely held political misconceptions. Facts and reasoning poured out of her as though she had spent her entire life preparing for this showdown, leaving Sonny, who probably had never witnessed such rational thinking in The View's history, scrambling to come up with her next question. However, the damage was already done. Everybody hosts Whoopi. Joy and Sonny were trying to play their usual games when Tulsi showed in to tell them the whole ridiculous farce, one question at a time. While they were left in the dust, desperately trying to catch up, the hosts feigned that everything was fine in their little world of political comfort food. Everyone was aware that it wasn't, and there was yet more to come. As if she were the knight in shining armor, Sonny host tried to go inside. You know, someone who thinks they have the perfect question to fool the visitor. "Ah, this will be an easy one," was the idea. "Watch me surprise her," she said, asking Tulsi about her stance on foreign affairs.
Colin, this whole thing has been nothing but good for Tulsi, and I thought she handled herself very well there.
Well, she did. She's very clearly comfortable under pressure. Maybe that has to do with her military experience, but I think these are kind of silly accusations, and I'm a little bit ashamed that the Democratic Party establishment hasn't backed her up more. She's a Russian plant because she goes on Fox News. That would make me one too.
Yeah.
We're probably all here. We're all Russian plants.
Sanders and Pete Buttigieg and Beto, all the Amy Klobuchar, these people who went on Fox. Yeah, Andrew Yang. It's insane. I thought she handled herself very well. I mean, Joy Behar is. I'm not even.
Yeah, no comment about Joy Behar.
Yeah, but like,
but seriously, she has her stick. But throwing these insults and these accusations out at the Democratic presidential candidate like this with no basis is ridiculous. Yeah. And thank God Tulsi has the guts.
It was as if Sonny had been trying to play chess with someone who had already memorized the whole thing. Tulsi's response was more than just, "Oh well." Here's my opinion. It looked like a series of well-placed blows, each one landing harder than the one before. There was silence after digesting Sonny's blinks. Because of Tulsi, she seemed to be reading from a third-grade screenplay. But it wasn't just Tulsi's humiliation of the hosts that made the whole thing funny. No, it was how quickly the whole mindset shifted from "we're in control" to "wait, what's happening here?" The hosts were desperately attempting to translate the political playbook into a language that everyone could understand, as if they were suddenly reading it in a foreign language. As the conversation continued, it became evident that they were in a panic. As Whoopi's composed exterior started to fall apart, she started to make occasional snarky comments that seemed less intelligent and more desperate. Sunny, on the other hand, just seemed to be waiting for someone to tell her what to say next. It wasn't even close to the ropes they were on with Tulsi. This was a masterclass in questioning people's political presumptions, not a discussion.
Terrible things that are happening in our country are happening because we have people in power who care more about themselves and their power than they do about the people, this country, our constitution, our democracy. They are setting this incredibly dangerous precedent that now, much like many banana republics in the world, whoever's in power has the ability to politicize and weaponize that power to go after their political opponent. Take away whatever people think about Trump or whatever. The consequences and implications of what is actually happening and what so many of the Democrat elite are justifying in the name of protecting democracy is actually
Furthermore, we cannot ignore the supremely poetic moment when Tulsi delivered her final strike. There was nothing spectacular about the coup. Since it was only an undeniable declaration of fact, the View was unable to recover. Yeah, we showed her. Tulsi made sure no one was thinking as they left the talk because it was like a baby entering a room full of adults, trying to play Monopoly informally, knocking down the board, and then walking out without any concerns. Oh, what a beautiful aftermath. The internet became viral. The vista is devoid of many. There were many tweets and mean videos on social media. Tulsi's unfiltered style was being praised, and the hosts were left scrambling to control the situation by saying things like, well, that's just her opinion rhetoric. But you can't pretend that there wasn't an earthquake when the building's foundations all of a sudden collapsed. Tulsi didn't need to use exaggeration, escalate the disagreement, or turn it into a shouting match. She just walked into the room and started arguing. She turned their world upside down with facts, logic, and a small truth bomb, so it wasn't only her who left with a victory in the end. It was everyone who has ever become tired of seeing the same old stories over and over again on political shows like The View.
In our opinion, has given a smackdown on The View.
True. We are back with Colin Rogero, Democratic strategist, and Henry Rogers, reporter for the Daily Caller. Let's start with Tulsi. So, you will recall that there was a whole flap that we definitely talked about here where Hillary Clinton accused her of being a Russian asset. Ridiculous, baseless, stupid smear. Joy Behar on The View had sort of backed Hillary up and called Tulsi a useful idiot. Well, yesterday, Tulsi was on The View and
we can only hope that Tulsi Gabbard will bring the same amount of energy to her next talk show appearance because, let's face it, more talk show programming is needed. As though she had just dropped the microphone on stage, she left the crowd panting for oxygen. Clearly, this was a statement rather than a one-time performance. Not only did she make it through the pandemonium, but she also owned it. Tulsi's reputation after the show, it is indeed golden. She is now the political figure that people like to argue about. Meanwhile, The View resumes its routine competition of partisan shouting. They'll go back to their echo chamber, a place where it's not acceptable to disagree with them. But Tulsi's visit left a lasting imprint that makes everyone question how they've been playing the game, whether they realize it or not. Even if the show drags on, the unsettling, undeniable reality that Tulsi disclosed will endure for some time. She is not following their rules.